So anyway, then I went, after spending a couple of weeks, I went to Athens. And I moved into an apartment and settled down. Now I was sort of writing and reading and just exploring things. And then I went to the shipping company office that belonged to Mr. Bastis, that was responsible for this ship, this Astratos it was called, the tanker. And I got there and I met Mr. Bastis' son, who I'd known from Shelburne when I was growing up, who was part of the company. And the captain of the ship was there. And he was really being criticized. I think he was fired because it took 2 or 3 days longer than it was supposed to take, which was kind of sad. Anyway, my friend George Bastis said, by the way, let's go tonight to a wine festival in Daphne, which is a neighborhood right outside of Athens. So I said, sure, I didn't know anybody. I'm just living there, just moved in. So we went to a wine festival, and which was a tasting different wine and kind of a party atmosphere in Daphne. And I met a woman there, an American, and we got to be friendly. And then I heard that Elia Kazan was making a movie in Athens at that time called America, America, and they needed some shoeshine boys, extras. So I met this guy, Lou Antonio, who was one of the actors, and he said, why don't you come down and apply for, getting an job as an extra. I did not apply at first. I just kept this in mind. And I made friends with this girl, and she was going to the island of Hydra on a vacation, which is quite close to Athens. So I said I'd go too, because I didn't know. I was interested in her. I was interested in going to this island. And you go, Aegina is the big island outside of Athens. And then behind that is an island called Poros. And then behind Poros is Hydra. And Hydra was a big tourist place. But going through Poros, the ship actually goes through a very narrow channel, and it's houses on both sides. So you see people, on their balconies and going through on the ship. And it's described in Henry Miller's book, Colossus of Marusi, so I knew of this place. And then go to Hydra, and there I met a whole bunch of young people from Athens, from Germany, from America, some from America, England, and we immediately formed into a group. And I had a really good time. I stayed 10 days there, and I was exploring not only Greece, but I didn't realize it then. But I was really, I was exploring Greece and also trying to come to some understanding of my father, who was kind of a mystery to me. He was a kind of aloof, authoritarian Greek father. He wasn't like a buddy friend or anything. He was hardworking. He was successful. I admired him, but I didn't really like him very much. And I didn't really understand much about his Greekness, and he had been very generous to me as a child, and I had no complaint. And he was never harsh with me or anything. It was just that he was distant. But, and my mother being English, I had sort of taken on a lot of the characteristics of my mother, who was reticent and English and polite and thoughtful, but not very expressive, whereas my father was very expressive. So when I went to Greece, no one could say my name, Ronald. It just doesn't come off the tongue very well for the Greeks. But my middle name was Stephen, so they called me Stephen, Stephos, which is my father's name. So I was sort of slipping into the role of being my father, so they didn't know that I was reticent and shy and quiet. So I wasn't that way with them. I was just the way I just sort of picked up. I imitated them. I don't know. So I started, and they all thought of me being very expressive. It was very funny. But on this island of Hydra, there was a very pretty young woman from Hamburg, Monica, her name was, and I took a shine to her, and we had conversations, and then something happened, and I got annoyed with her, and she was very angry with me, and so we were walking through the streets of Hydra at this time, having good times, and then all of a sudden we were angry with each other. And not that I didn't have any claim on her. She was just a tourist from Germany spending a week there. But someone was taking photographs of us as we were walking along, and then he'd sell us these photos afterwards. So I actually have pictures of myself dancing with this girl, and then also in this mood of anger, like she was looking at me in an angry way and I was looking at her. I mean, I still have the picture. And I don't have many pictures because they didn't bring any camera. I didn't want to have any of that old tourist stuff, I didn't want any of that. So I really don't have any pictures except these pictures. Now, unbeknownst to me, there was someone also watching us from a cafe. It turned out to be an American woman named Zina. And after the 10 days were through, I was going back to Athens. I got back on a ferry boat. I was up on the top deck, and there was almost no one on board. But there was this one woman who was this very striking, beautiful, blonde woman, a little bit older than myself. And she came to me and said hello to me, and said she noticed me in these street scenes, that she would watch us, because this group of friends would always be with each other. And we got talking. And she happened to be someone who claimed to be Princess Zina Rachevsky, a Russian princess. So she really wasn't a Russian princess. She was from Brooklyn, a Jewish girl. But her father was from Russia, and evidently he had been in the guards of the Tsar or something, and was indirectly related to some nobility. So she just took upon herself to say. And she looked gorgeous. She was tall, 5'9", 5'10", blonde hair, enormous blue eyes, and a really beautiful face, very dramatic. And she had been a part-time actress in Athens, in Italy. And she had been on various magazines, like not quite Playboy, but Rogue, and these kind of, in some layouts, because she was this actress. And she had married some guy named Conrad Rooks, who was making a film, or going to make a film, about his life as an addict. And he had just gone to France and taken a peyote cure for his addictions, and then once had overcome with a psychiatrist. And then he went to India, to Ceylon, and was studying yoga, and had really overcome his addiction. And he was going to come back to Athens, where he lived with Zina. So, it was a very interesting story. She knew all sorts of writers, and like Allen Ginsberg and Kerouac, and these people her husband knew, who was wealthy, and so forth. So it was fascinating talking to this woman, so I got her name, her address, and on her telephone number. And when I got home to Greece, to Athens, I wrote her a letter, and I asked her if we could meet in the Parthenon on the Acropolis. So she did send me a card back, because I had my address, and she said, I still have that card. And she said, you sound very like Walt Whitman, Song of the Open Road. There must be a pure form of expression. I cannot meet at the Temple of Athena. And she gave her address and her telephone number. So I called her up, and she invited me to a party. So that was, and then soon after I did go to meet with Elia Kazan and got a part-time job in this film. And then I met a whole other group of people, Eli and Charlene, who was there, and my other friends. And then Eli and Charlene and Zina and Conrad, when Conrad came back from Ceylon, all got together, and that was sort of the basis of this community that I got together with. And that's enough. That's enough.